Welcome, everyone, to the newest episode of our podcast series, Ready, Set, Rewatch, a show where we go back and take a look at movies and TV shows we all love and maybe a few that we hate. My name is Skyler, and with me, as always, is my co-host Daniel. And today we are continuing our journey talking about Star Trek, the original series.
Yeah. We have another pilot episode.
We've somehow circled back to another pilot.
For the third time, it's the first episode.
Yes, it's this episode's title is Where No Man Has Gone Before, which is what you'd imagine pilot for Star Trek would be called.
Yep.
Now, we talked about it in The Cage, which was the first pilot, when the studio said, no, we don't want this,
Yeah.
but try again. And this is the episode that they tried again with. Although what aired on TV is not the full pilot. They did re-edit a bit of it. There are comparisons on YouTube of things that were changed or cut out or stuff like that. For me, the saddest thing about going back to another pilot episode is that we're back to the big sweaters I didn't like with the collars. We're back to the pilot uniforms from The Cage, and I was like, oh.
I will say, I think, because I liked them in The Cage, and I think I still like them here, but Spock is wearing like an ugly vomit green one, and it does not look good on him at all.
Yeah, so that may be a thing where it's like the same ones from before, just the lighting has changed now.
Maybe.
I've heard that said before about certain Star Trek uniforms where like, oh, the gold and green is similar, but the lighting makes them stand out more. I don't know.
Yeah. It's definitely possible. I do think the best looking one of all of them in this is the like goldy brownish one that Kirk and like some of the other background characters are wearing for sure. The women have a different one though, because it's not the dress that they wear in that Uhura is wearing in like the previous episode. It's largely the same sweater, but the collar is this like almost scarf. It's this like loose fitting kind of dangly,
very
fluffy bit,
saggy. Yeah,
and I don't think that looks good.
Yeah,
I think that's pretty unattractive, actually.
Everything looks pretty ill-fitting. So the cast is all changed up now from The Cage. And I'll say it is strange that they decided to throw this in as the fourth episode.
It's weird.
Or the, what is this, the third aired episode? Which one is it?
It would be the third aired one.
Yeah, because in this pilot, Bones is not here. Watching it as it's come out now, we've had 2 episodes of Bones, and then suddenly he's gone. And also, Sulu's wearing blue, and Scotty's wearing gold, and Sally Kellerman is here for some reason.
Right. It's basically an entirely different crew.
Yeah, it is.
And so I think this is the first time we see Scotty, actually.
It is. It absolutely is. And I actually have a note here about the Doctor. Doctor in this is played by character actor Paul Fix. He had been in stuff since like the 20s. And I believe that was a studio note. They were like, we want this guy. And they kind of crammed him in here. But Gene Roddenberry apparently always wanted DeForest Kelley to play the Doctor, which I don't know how. He fought for a lot of stuff, apparently, because if he was able to get past this pilot and then still get DeForest Kelley to play Bones in the next one, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So let's jump right into the story here.
So this episode starts off for the second time already with them receiving a distress signal. They're getting close to the edge of like, I guess, the known galaxy or something, and they're picking up a signal from outside of that where they claim like it's weird that there's something coming back from outside there because no one's gone there before, presumably. Although I have some questions about that later that we'll get to. And so they pick it up as they're like going to the edge of the galaxy, which is this like big purple glowy like Microsoft screensaver looking thing. It tells them basically like this other ship, I think the Valiant, got destroyed by something that we don't really know. There was some like big force that destroyed them, and for some reason, as the ship was being destroyed, the captain was like furiously searching up everything he could figure out about people with ESP or espers. And so I forget the exact order of operations, but also as they're nearing the edge of the galaxy, Kirk calls all the department heads to the bridge, and the department heads are Scotty, the doctor who is only in this episode,
Yeah.
Sulu, and then Elizabeth Denner, who's the like
Yeah.
psychologist who is new to this episode. And there's like one other guy I think that I don't remember what his thing was, but he was around. I think he said life sciences maybe was his job. That's what I wrote down
Perhaps.
anyway.
What did Sulu say his department was?
He didn't speak.
Oh, he's just standing there.
Yeah, he was just over
Okay.
there. For a second, I
Well,
actually was
that's-
like, "Is that just a different guy?" Because they're not
That's
letting him
fun.
talk, so I don't know.
Because another one of our main characters in this episode is a helmsman who is not Sulu. So
Yeah, I think his it is Gary Mitchell,
yeah, Gary.
who, based on his picture on IMDb, I'm going to assume is also in 2001: Space Odyssey. Is that true?
What is he? Hang
I
on.
don't know. His picture has the spacesuits from 2001 in the background. Yeah, apparently he's Dr. Frank Poole in 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Gary Lockwood was in 2001. Look at that.
That's crazy.
This guy's a science fiction legend.
Look at him. Wow. But yeah, so they pulled this recorder. They pulled this recorder out of space, and it tells them all this stuff. And they're like, okay, well, let's boldly go. And they decide to go and fly into this screensaver and just sort of see what happens. Which I just want to also point out a couple of things that were bothering me about it. Is it's just like, okay, so we're not going to do any research before we fly into it to try and figure out what we can do. We're not going to like send a probe or something. And also, it's just like a relatively thin band. We're not going to go like over it or under it. We're going to fly straight through that. That clearly, like, that is clearly the problem right there. We're going straight in. Okay, here we go. Sure.
The name of the episode is Where No Man Has Gone Before, and no one's ever been in that thing. So we're going.
Fair enough.
That's some like D&D, I'm going to do some stupid shit logic.
Yeah.
Like, well, no one's ever been there. Here we go.
Well, with the D&D reference, they definitely didn't roll a nat 20. It was more like, I don't know, they passed. It's like, I don't know, 17, 16, somewhere in there. But they're flying through this thing, and the whole bridge starts just exploding. Like,
I would
sparks
say-
are shooting all over the place.
I would
People
say they
are-
rolled pretty low. They rolled like maybe a 5 because we got 9 dead crew members
That's
after
true.
this.
There are 9 people who die throughout the course of them flying through this thing. The ship survives, I guess, but still, the whole bridge starts exploding. People are like throwing themselves on the floor. Kirk throws himself Spock throws himself like down a small flight of stairs down to like the center area of the bridge. It's genuinely crazy. And in the process of the whole bridge exploding, Denner gets zapped by something, and the helmsman, whose name I already forgot, Gary
Gary
Mitchell, gets electrocuted by something and like thrown from his seat. Where
Yeah.
we see, as soon as they get out of this purple cloud of nonsense, we see that his eyes have been transformed into tinfoil.
So that's interesting you say that. I have a little fun fact about this eye effect. So they are contact lenses that they squished into his eyes,
Okay.
and they're 2 lenses with sandwiched in between is literally tinfoil.
Literally, that doesn't seem safe.
They just crammed tinfoil into this guy's eyes. Yeah, 2 lenses with tinfoil sandwiched between, covering the entire eye. Wearing the lenses was difficult. I can't imagine
Yeah,
why.
jeez.
He could only see through the lenses by looking down while pointing his head up.
Oh, so that's why he was doing that the whole time. I thought he was just being an asshole.
He was able to use this look to literally what you just said. Lockwood was able to use this look to convey Mitchell's arrogant attitude.
Okay. Well, you know what? He nailed it. Way to go.
So the lenses were made over a weekend by optician John Roberts, who was hired to make it for the show, and he felt obligated to try wearing them himself before asking any actors to do it. And it says he managed to for several hours, although he found them incredibly uncomfortable.
Okay, dude.
He's like, you can do it, but it fucking hurts.
Ugh.
He says as long as they were only worn for brief periods, they were safe.
Okay. Well, but how long did we make him wear it?
Well, listen. If the guy from 2001: A Space Odyssey was blinded in the pilot episode for this space show,
Yeah.
I don't think we would have picked it up.
That's true. We also probably would have heard about it, to be
Yeah.
fair. So this all happens. The two people get zapped. Gary gets big glowy eyes that are just tinfoil, but I think are supposed to look like they're like glowing with energy.
I will say the effect of them in his eyes looks pretty good
It
and kind of
does,
like
yeah.
scary and weird. But also I can tell they're uncomfortable because his eyes are weeping the entire time he's on stage or on
Yeah.
screen. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
like it looks like he's dying.
Yeah, he is very clearly not thrilled about the whole situation. But they drag him off to med bay, and Spock starts looking through some records and finds out that everyone who died had a really high Esper rating or ranking or whatever it is. Like they were shown to have had the ability to have some amount of like precognition or whatever.
Oh shit, we got psychers in Star Trek.
Which is cool. It's cool, right? I don't know how much they're going to play on this in the future, but I think it's a cool idea that, like, we have throughout the continued evolution of humanity gotten some level of like psychic abilities amongst some people. I think that's really cool. I hope that they do more with that. Maybe they'll have like a crew, because I know that a lot of the crew members who showed up in this don't continue on in the show. Like,
Yeah.
even like we have like a third yeoman in this episode who's just like Yeoman Smith, and she's kind of just around. I don't even think she really
Oh,
says anything.
she kind of has the same bit as the yeoman from The Cage, where she's just always sneaking up on Kirk a little bit.
Yeah, honestly, that's about right. But so then we go to Gary Mitchell in the hospital, and he is doing all right. Bones is like checking him out, and he's like, "You're healthy as you ever been, but your eyes are
You're
weird."
the healthiest man with silver eyes I've ever seen.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about, but the rest of you fine. It's totally fine. And he starts like reading, and he's reading through all of these books super fast, and he's able to because at some point Denner comes in, the other lady who got zapped, the psychologist comes in,
Yeah.
or psychiatrist, I guess, and he's like, look, I can change my vitals, and he like makes his heart go really fast, and then he kills himself for a second, and she's freaking out. He's like, oh, it's just a prank, bro. Like, brings himself back, but she's like testing him on some stuff, and it turns out that like everything that he's read in the like incredibly short period of time he's been in medbay, he remembers with like almost completely crystal clear clarity. Like, he's able to remember word for word excerpts from like the poetry that he was reading. And someone makes the reference, because they end up going to the conference table to figure out like what's going on with this guy, and I forget who it is who says it, but they're like, I think it's Sulu. He makes a reference to like it's the situation of if you doubled the amount of money you had in the bank every day for a month, you'd be a millionaire or something. And so like he's just exponentially growing in intelligence and like Esper ability
Hmm.
as we're speaking. And so Spock, because in this pilot he's ruthless, is like, we should probably kill him. We
I
should probably just shoot the
mean,
guy.
yeah.
He's like, we should probably shoot this guy and or leave him on a planet. There's a planet up ahead that has like a mining base on it or whatever, and we should just leave him there and or shoot him a bunch. And
Yeah.
everyone's like, whoa, hey, whoa, I don't know about all that.
Yeah, I wrote down that people always get mad at Spock for being a Vulcan. Now granted, he's kind of an angry Vulcan in this pilot.
He's pretty upset.
He's gone through such a, like, obviously in the two episodes in between the pilots we've watched, there's real Spock in there somewhere.
Hmm.
Like double axe handle to a woman's face Spock. I like that Spock. But like in the cage, there's that spot moment where he's all happy and smiley, and in this one, yeah, he's just like, kill him,
We should
kill
probably
this
kill him.
guy.
He kind of sucks, actually.
So still working at the kinks of how Spock is supposed to be,
Yeah.
which I think actually the next episode that we'll talk about, they kind of nailed, and I'll go into why I think that when we get there.
Okay. But so I think it's Kirk and Spock end up going back to the med bay to like go and talk to him again, and he starts shooting lightning at them out of his hands. He does like a unlimited power and like
Yeah,
force lightnings them,
scene.
and they go flying across the room, and they end up tackling him and like knocking him out, and they're like, all right, guess we're taking him down to the planet, we're gonna leave his ass down there. So they head on down.
I did mention in my notes, like, as soon as he starts talking about, thinking he's a god, they
Yeah,
knock his ass out cold.
they're
They're
like,
like, we're done.
I've seen this
We're
movie
going to
actually.
we're going to plan. Spock kicks this guy out on the planet. We're
Yep.
done.
So they take him down to a matte painting of a factory, and
I'm glad you said that. It reminds me of that map from Halo Reach. Remember that? I don't remember what it's called,
I think I know what
but
you're talking about, but I also don't know what it's called, so
it
I
it's
can't
it's a
help.
big part of the end of the campaign. But it doesn't matter. We're talking about Star Trek, not Halo Reach. I'm gonna Google it either way, though.
Do it, coward. So they take him down. And they throw him into a prison cell with a force field door. And this is where I get confused about the where no one's ever gone before situation, because like if it's a factory that was built by robots or something, which would be the only way that the factory could exist without people having been here before, why does it have a prison cell with a bed in it?
Hey, come on.
Uh
We
huh.
sometimes we need it.
Uh huh. Okay, you're right. You got me. It seems like maybe people have gone before. Is all I'm saying.
Where some guys have gone before. All right, it's
It's not
it's
as good of a
fine.
title, to be fair.
No,
But Kirk is like talking to someone on the bridge. I think it might be Scotty, and Scotty's like, "Oh, did Spock get the phaser rifle that I sent down?" And Kirk's like, "What?" And Spock comes walking around just like fully decked out with this huge rifle. And he's like, "Oh yeah, he got it."
once again, we're back to that Buck Rogers style of guns with a big like circular things all around it.
Honestly, I'm happy to see it. Like the only guns I've ever seen in Star Trek are the phasers, and so it's interesting to see like, oh no, like that makes sense. Like we do still have war in this universe. Like it makes sense that we would have to have like bigger guns for when things go actually crazy. So it's nice that we have that, I guess. And Kirk is also telling someone else who was on the bridge crew named Kelso. He's like, hey, just in case, I need you to rig this base to explode in case Mitchell gets out, because if he gets out, he could like destroy the ship or whatever. You need to blow up this entire valley. So Kelso's like, hell yeah, dude, I got it. And he like hits some buttons and gets it done. But unfortunately, as soon as they leave Mitchell, or as soon as they leave Kelso alone, Mitchell starts using his psychic powers to take a little cord and wrap it around his neck and strangles his ass. And all the while, Spock and Kirk are like standing in front of the door with Denner, and Denner's like starting to act a little weird. And they're like, okay, like I guess she just has feelings for this guy. That's fine. It's whatever. Until what's the order here? He like Mitchell like throws himself against the electric door, and it like turns him normal for a second. It turns him back to his like regular self for all of 2 seconds. And he's like, Kirk, what's going on? And then he like turns into his god mode again. He's like,
Yeah,
okay, I'm gonna leave this prison now, and he just like gets out.
the name of the Halo Reach map is Boneyard. It
Oh
took me longer to find that than I would have liked, and that's why I kind of went quiet for a second.
no, you're
But I
good.
found it, and that's what's important to me.
I'm proud of you. Uh,
Boneyard. Anyways, go ahead.
so Mitchell breaks out of prison. I don't remember exactly how he does it, but it's like not hard at all. He throws Kirk and Spock away so they can't stop him. And then we see that Denner has also got the tinfoil eyes, and she is now a secondary god. As they,
Yep, she also has tinfoil crammed in her eyes.
and then they leave the base, and we all go back to the ship and leave them alone. Oh wait, no, we can't do that. We have to go hunt them down for some reason. Oh, okay. I guess we'll go hunt this god down for fun. I don't know. Is it just personal now? Like we just can't leave him because he killed Kelso or something?
That's a good. You're making a lot of good points.
I don't know. If a big problem walked out of my life and decided to just go do whatever on a rock that no one's ever been to before, apparently, I'm fine leaving him there.
Maybe they assume, like, okay, let's go back to the last episode. If Charlie got off the Enterprise and just started like, I'm gonna go do my gross Charlie stuff on this planet,
Yeah,
Kirk would be like, I need to shut this down.
yeah. We should probably shoot this guy.
I need to shoot this kid in the head or something. So we've got one of his. Well, not to mention, that they do establish there was like a past friendship between Kirk and
Right. They had been like in
Gary.
the academy together or something.
Yeah. And so they've like kind of come up together a bit, and so like this is an old friend of mine and he's gonna hurt himself and others. I need to take my big Buck Rogers gun and I need to go shoot him in the head.
It's strange. And what's potentially even more strange is that in the next scene, Denner and Mitchell are just like walking around this, foam planet made of styrofoam rocks.
Looking
And
at matte paintings and
yeah.
like terrarium plants,
Yeah, yeah.
like fake plants you'd put in with your lizard or your spider.
Yeah, and their powers have just become fully magic. Like I don't understand how it's Esper powers anymore. It doesn't feel like it's like a psychic ability or whatever. Because he just waves his hand and creates an oasis for them to like have food and water, and they're just hanging out.
We're back to godlike space beings.
So we're just like fully gods now.
Yeah.
And Kirk eventually is like tracking them down now with the gun that he took from Spock, the big rifle.
Mm-hmm.
And Mitchell can like tell that he's coming or something. He can like tell that he's nearing in on the oasis, the oasis of the gods that they've made. And he's like, Denner, why don't you go beat him up? Why don't you go kick his ass?
Get him.
But it doesn't quite work out that way because Kirk is good with the ladies and like convinces Elizabeth that, hey, maybe this is bad. Actually, maybe we shouldn't be gods. Maybe we need to stop Mitchell before he like destroys the universe or whatever.
He's able to appeal to her humanity.
Yeah. And so then Mitchell and Denner have like a little fight that is not particularly a great fight. They just kind of like point their fingers at each other and then like fall over, but like really slow. I don't know what the fight was supposed to be exactly. But she like is able to take his powers away for a little while so that Kirk can start punching him, because Kirk has to do some punches. It's necessary.
Oh yeah.
And even more necessary is that during the fight, Kirk has to get a slutty shoulder out and get a little bit of blood on his face. He's got to tear his shirt. He's got to get a little bloodied up so that he can look extra hot, because this is the second pilot, and we got to make sure that everyone knows why we're here, and it's because we need sexy Kirk at all times.
Yeah.
So they fight for a little while, and Mitchell gets his powers back, and it starts becoming really one-sided. And he makes a grave for Kirk.
It's like Ebenezer Scrooge's grave is what it looks like.
He's like, all right, hop in.
It's got a big tombstone and everything.
Yeah, a tombstone that says James R. Kirk instead of James T. Yeah, instead of James T. Kirk, because they hadn't decided what his middle name was.
You know what? We're gonna chalk that up to Gary here just not being a very good friend.
Yeah, honestly, I'm fine with that. But good news, now that there's a hole to put him in, they get into a fist fight again, and both fall into the hole. And Kirk gets out first, finds the laser beam, shoots it at a big rock up on a hill, and he buries Gary under a rock like Gruntilda.
Absolutely. There was a point before the Grunty, the witch death, that Kirk was on top, and I wrote in my notes like Kirk was just gonna crush this fucker's head with a rock.
Oh yeah.
He just picked up a big rock, and he was just gonna blaster this guy.
Yeah. I don't even know. And then Elizabeth dies for some reason. I guess the damage from her very small fight with Gary had taken the energy out of her, so she just like dies.
She took the we don't want to pay you anymore damage.
Yeah. So Kirk walks out of this having killed two gods, one with charisma and one with a big rock. And then he goes back up to the planet and he adds their deaths to the logs, and he's like, they died in doing their jobs. They were really good people. Don't worry about it. And I think Spock is like, yeah, I felt for him too, or something, and then it's the end of the episode.
Yeah, don't feel bad for Denner for not being in the show anymore, because Sally Kellerman, who plays her, went on to be in the MASH movie, where she was nominated for an Academy Award.
Oh, really? That's crazy.
For best supporting actress. Yep. Good for her. I feel and I feel like our conversation reflects this compared to the other episodes we've done. I don't feel like I had a lot to say about this one.
I agree, which is weird because even though I think having seen this as the now fourth episode, I think there's
Mhm.
a lot of like tropes that I'm starting to see that are kind of maybe annoying me a little bit, but also I think some of them will be
Yeah.
fixed out. But all of that aside, I actually still think this is maybe one of the better episodes so far. Like I think it's really well
Uh,
put together. Like I think they pace it well. I think they handle it well.
yeah,
Um,
I think maybe because like pilots in general are meant to be, and I think maybe this is a stupid sentence because every episode should kind of be like this, but a pilot is supposed to be like a made-for-TV movie, like really sell everything in one episode, like this is what we're gonna do.
yeah.
This was their second attempt, so I think they I don't know, it's okay.
As a pilot, I think in today's day, this would do better than either of the other two options. I really do. I think that this does a better job of establishing the world and the characters, even though none of those characters end up mattering in the long run. I think it does a better
Probably.
job of like
you,
establishing who these people
you
are
know
and doing all that.
the the strength of this episode is its core message. Power corrupts. They even say that.
Yeah,
Like they do the absolute power corrupts absolutely whole shtick. And if you look at the other two pilots, I guess the Cage had a thing of like man fighting for freedom. I don't want to be a slave. Although how that ends kind of blurs everything, where they just let him
yeah,
go, and then he's like, "Happy ending for the ugly lady. She gets to stay."
yeah,
Yay! So that's a bit weird. And then the other one is really just a man versus monster kind of story.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, there's stuff in there, emotional connection for Bones and stuff like that, but this is the one of the three that really has a message of like not only does power corrupt, but this power comes from the deep recesses of space that we don't understand, and
yeah.
it's a danger of our mission, which is to explore space. So, putting it in that context, I think it's definitely the best pilot that we got.
I think this is the best episode of the four. I think the more I think about it, I think so far this is my favorite episode. I don't necessarily love it, but I think it just does a better job of what it sets out to do. But this is also where I'm starting to see a lot of things that are irritating me, and some of those things I don't think are going to be problems long term because a lot of this is because of it's like weird start with all these different pilots.
Yeah.
But like it's annoying to me that this is the fourth episode and it's the third completely different crew. Like that's annoying.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, that won't be a problem
Obviously,
anymore.
yeah,
Um, Going forward, we've got our main three, Kirk, Spock, and Bones, and then we've got our supporting people. Hora's back there; she does stuff kind of
she
occasionally.
does some
Sulu, I would
booze.
say, does more. Season two will add Chekhov, and he does quite a bit. And then Scotty. If the main three are like I said, Kirk, Spock, and Bones, Scotty, I would say becomes number four.
Okay.
So yeah, we definitely after this we lock down our crew and they stay. So that's good.
Yeah, yeah. I was aware that like obviously the problem with that is because we had so many different pilots and we didn't know what we were doing with casting yet. But it was
Yeah,
just it got annoying after this where I was just like, okay, like, there's so many characters and like half of this crew dies this episode.
that's true. Yeah, we just kind
Uh,
of have to like pick out like don't care about you, don't need to remember
yeah.
you, etc.
And it's
And
also it's the fourth episode and the third one that had like a super psychic enemy because the cage
yeah,
had the brain boys. The one before this had Charlie, and now the espers became gods. And honestly, even Salty got had some psychic powers where she could like make people see what she wanted. So I guess that's just like what Star
yeah.
Trek is it's a lot more like I don't
I
know,
I think
metaphysical
that
than I was expecting.
I think that comes down to constraints of the time a lot, where it's very easy to say instead of having the salt vampire running around the ship tearing people's heads off or whatever, it's easier to say the salt vampire can look like anybody, so we can just have a guy walk down the hallway.
Yeah.
So I think that's just a television constraint. But like I was saying in our last one, we were talking about that rat bastard Charlie. Um, the one of the things that pops up so often is godlike alien beings, and this one is and isn't that. Like an alien, some sort of alien power creates a new godlike life, and that becomes our problem. And it's the repetitiveness of I am all powerful, therefore I can do whatever I want. That's gonna be what has me rolling my eyes as we progress through the show.
Yeah, I'm starting to see that that might be something that Roddenberry just really liked.
Yeah. And like I said before, that's not something that really goes away because we get like Q eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when we get to Q, they're like, okay, we did it good. And so that's why Q sticks around so often. That's why he shows up so many times. But yeah, uh, I so again, our ranking system is if it's good, it gets an engage, and if it's bad, it gets an illogical. I have yet to give an illogical, and I'm not gonna start now. I'm gonna
No,
give this an engage also. There have been a couple things on the line. Like I feel like the cage was kind of close on the line, and I
and
hate
Charlie.
Charlie so much.
Yeah,
And then this one, I mean, I like the story and the message, like we said. Yeah, I'll give this one engaged as well.
yeah. I'm definitely doing engage because I think I stand by it. I don't feel like super confident in it, but I stand by it. I think this is probably the best thought out episode so far.
Probably.
So I'm pretty happy with that.
Although Spock didn't double axe handle punch the tinfoil out of anybody's eyes, so
It's a missed
I
opportunity,
would
and I don't know why
I
they
would have
didn't.
liked to have seen it, but I guess I understand. Welcome back, everyone, to the newest episode of our podcast series, Ready, Set, Rewatch, a show where we go back and take a look at movies and TV shows we all love and maybe a few that we hate. My name is Skyler, and with me, as always, is my co host, Daniel.
Welcome back, everybody.
And today we are continuing our journey watching Star Trek, the original series.
Yes, yes.
And now,
What?
parents, send your kids to bed and lock your door, draw the shades, because the name of the episode we're talking about this week is The Naked Time.
Ooh, the naked time. To be fair, this is it's called that, and it's kind of an inherently like not sexy episode. Like, there's not a
No,
whole lot of like,
no. By the end, I think you understand why it's called that. I think in a very metaphorical sense.
yeah,
And I'll say that now. This episode is a lot of looking inside a character's like soul a little bit. We see like
yeah,
beyond the surface of a lot of people, whether that be like silly or stupid or genuinely emotional in some respects.
right,
It's all about people's like inner nature coming out, stripping them away, which is why it's the naked time, I think.
yeah. They're not taking their clothes. Well, maybe Sulu. They're not taking their clothes off. It's like an
May-
emotional
maybe our
bareness.
captain rips his shirt and gets a slutty little
He
shoulder
does
out
get
for a
another
second.
slutty little shoulder out, but we'll get there. He loves a slutty little shoulder.
Hey man, that's what the captain's there for.
Yes, I will play the captain, but only if I can have my shoulder exposed.
My slutty shoulder must breathe for the fans to see.
It's my most sexual feature. I
That's
will
true.
showcase
I
it.
I wouldn't even disagree with that. I think his slutty shoulder is his most sexual
It's his
feature.
most sexual feature. And you know what? High schools agree because they tell girls that they're not allowed to have their shoulders out because it'll distract the boys, I guess, because dress
If
codes are an inherently sexist thing.
if Kirk was wearing like a spaghetti strap in this, no one would be getting their jobs done. I can tell you that for free.
I wouldn't. Are you kidding me? Or Hera wouldn't either. She spent 2 episodes being either racist or horny for him, so.
Uh, Play the clip of Sulu of George Takei going, "Oh my."
Oh my. I am
Alright,
probably going to
here we
have to
go.
look up one of those at some point for this show.
We need a soundboard. At any point, just hit it and hit the "Oh
I can't
my."
wait until the episode where he says that because he has to say it at least once, right? There's no way that
Uh,
it doesn't happen.
I don't think that's a Sulu thing. I think that's just a George Takei thing.
Oh my.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah. I'm trying to remember if he says it. It's in one of the movies, but I
Okay.
don't think Sulu says that. I think that's just George Takei being a little slutty himself. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it is the naked time, so it's the correct place for it.
This is the episode for it. All the kids have already been sent to bed.
That's right.
So
The naked time starts with we get a short sort of report of like, hey, this planet is dying. It's somehow freezing and shrinking, which I don't understand the science of, and I'm not really going to question it. It's Star Trek, so whatever.
because cold things retract and
Yes,
hot things expand.
true.
I don't know if that works for planets,
Couldn't tell
but
you. Not a
but
scientist.
you know what? You know who probably does know? The guy who wrote this episode. He
Yeah, I
knows
would
more
hope
than
so.
me.
Either way, there's a research station on this planet where no one's ever been before, and there's a bunch of people on it, and those people, we need to rescue them. But Spock and other guy, who I'm not going to bother looking up his name for, beam down to the planet in their radiation suits that look like they're covered in chainmail. It's like a red jumpsuit with like rings over everything to make it look spacey, I assume.
I know they're just like radiation suits. Like I know that, but
Yeah.
upon seeing them, I immediately thought of Back to the Future 1.
Oh yeah.
The suit that he wears and says he's Darth Vader from the planet Vulcan.
Perfect.
That's what I thought of.
Well, Spock from the planet Vulcan is wearing it here, and he is not thrilled about the fact that everyone is frozen and dead. They find what is clearly just a mannequin, and they're like, "This woman's been strangled," and I'm like, "I think that's a man. I don't think that was ever. That's fine. All right, sure." And it's, I guess there was a team of like 6, and every single one of them has died. So Spock goes off into a bathroom to figure out what happened, and other guy is a big dumb idiot, and he's got an itchy nose. So he takes his glove
Man.
off in this place where that clearly they thought was having some kind of like biological issue, because why else would they be wearing the suits?
We're on the same page here because my first note for this episode is dumbass took his glove off.
He took his glove off so that he could
And I-
scratch his face, and then he doesn't put it back on, and he puts his hand over by a blood stain, which then like does the thing.
I even put the little facepalm emoji.
That's how you know it's serious.
Yeah.
And it crawls into him and makes him sick, but not immediately. It just makes his hand itchy at first. So whatever.
Yeah. And it makes a little sound effect whenever he scratches his hand.
Yeah, so they're like, everyone's dead, gotta go back. So they beam back up to the ship, and they're looked over by medical. So they know that there's a problem. They get held in quarantine, like in the what would you call it, the transporter room, I guess, for a little bit. And then they immediately get taken over to medical, where Bones looks them over, and they're like, everything's fine, everyone's good here. Certainly no alien sickness come back with either of these guys. Which brings me to my second
None of you
point.
took your glove off.
As long as none of you were the worst people ever. Is Bones just not a very good doctor?
It's not his fault. He's a great doctor, but we're dealing with so many things that not only are unprecedented in like the medical field that we're versed in, but can actively like hide itself until it needs to be crazy. It's
I
not
guess
his
that's
fault.
fair. But
I will.
at the same
Bones
time,
is my ride or die. Okay, I'll stand up for
at
him.
the same time, he's only been in 3 episodes, and he has failed twice.
It's not gonna stop. All right, it's not gonna. And you know what? If you're gonna blame Bones for it, you're gonna blame every doctor across all of Star Trek because it's gonna keep happening.
Because you can't tell that this guy's infected, and he also couldn't tell why the person who got their salt sucked died in Mantrap.
He figured it out when they were on the
He
ship.
figured it out eventually, but like not early enough. I don't know. Strange that he's the super doctor. Anyway, he was the third one too. I bet the first 2 would have caught it.
No,
Anyway,
why do you think the first 2 are gone? They caught less.
they caught less. No, they knew it was going to get crazy, and they got off that ship. They were smart. The other guy went to go start a bar. The first doctor.
Oh, that would make sense.
So they go to the lounge, and immediately other guy is losing his mind, and he's like, "Game over, man! All those guys down on the planet died. Why do I get to be alive?" And he like pulls out a butter knife.
Yep. I wrote in my notes, my trusty notes, that I will always go back to. R.I.P. Joey. He fell on a butter knife.
He pulls out a butter knife, and Sulu and some other guy from who also works at the helm are like, "Whoa, hey, buddy,
Whoa, just take it easy, man.
sun's getting real low. Let's fix this problem here." And he freaks out and ends up falling on the knife and like cutting himself open. But honestly, it doesn't even look that bad. And also the blood is pink, which I don't know. Maybe that's because he's infected. I don't know. Who's to say?
I think that's just certain TV censors. Like, they can't really show a big old cut at this point, I don't think. And certainly they don't want tons of, like, blood. They just need something to represent it enough to be like, oh, he got stabbed. And it doesn't look that bad, but to be fair, like, when Bones is stitching him up, it's supposed to be, like, a very simple thing, and it just goes wrong.
Yeah,
Because of whatever's happening.
but also maybe he's not a very good doctor.
No, I'm shutting this down.
He's not even wearing a mask. He's operating with no mask on.
It's the future. You don't understand.
So they go to the operating table and all of that happens. He's operating on him without a mask on, and he's like, he's dying, and I don't know why he's dying. It's like
he's just stabbing him in the heart with a prod. Why is he dying?
And
Damn
this
it!
is also where we get the introduction of a brand new character who's kind of an old character because it's number one, but she's wearing a different wig, and now she's playing Nurse Chapel.
Nurse Chapel. Yeah, she's a bit of a mainstay. So
okay, she sticks around. Cool.
In the same sense where you didn't know that Yeoman Rand was a thing, Nurse Chapel is also a thing.
Yeah, didn't know she existed.
And my interesting fact about this episode is apparently this is the only episode in the entire original run of the series that has all three, Nurse Chapel, Yeoman Rand, and Uhura in it.
Oh, we got all the ladies.
This is the lady episode, and we don't get them all back until, I think, Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
No way. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. So
that's...
after other guy dies in the med bay, we go back to the bridge, and they're talking about how because the planet is shrinking, we have to be careful around it because it could, like, I don't know, we'll like crash into it, or I don't know. Like, in order to keep the orbit, we have to change our altitude above it at a certain pace, or I don't know. There's something about it where we have to be very careful, or we'll crash into the planet. And it's an important thing to note here because it becomes a ticking clock soon. But Kirk leaves the bridge. He's like, all right, well, everything's fine right now. I'm going to go make sure that my random guy didn't die.
Spoilers,
as soon as he does, yeah. And as soon as he does, Sulu and the other guy who tried to stop first guy from stabbing himself are like, first of all, sweating really hard and like rubbing their hands because they like the way that the sickness presents itself in this episode is that they act like they're just like crack fiends a little bit at first. So they're like scratching themselves and like rubbing their hands.
It's some sort of skin to skin contact.
Yeah, they say that it's spread through like fluid, so like sweat.
Yeah.
But Sulu's like, hey man, this place is lame. Let's go to the gym.
Yes, Sulu becomes a gym bro. He's like, I'm gonna go fuck around with my sword.
And then
he just leaves.
And the other guy, who I think his name is Riley, he's Irish, we'll come to find out.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, dude, for sure. And he like doesn't follow. He just like doesn't go.
Well, he's kind of does like the schoolboy thing of like, Sulu, we're gonna get in trouble.
Get in trouble, Sulu. Don't go to the gym.
Sulu doesn't care. He's like, I'm out of here. I'm gonna go chase people with a sword.
But they're like, orbit around the planet starts to decay, and so Spock comes over and tries to fix it. And he's like, "Where's Sulu?" And Riley's acting crazy and drunk. So Spock's like, "You know what? You leave too. Actually, go to medbay. I'm sick of you."
He becomes like this playful drunken Irishman character.
Yeah.
To the point, and I don't say Irishman as in like that. He makes sure to tell us many times, because one of the things he says is he's like, "You don't need Sulu. One Irishman is worth 10,000," and then he gets cut off.
Yeah.
And I sat up in my seat. I was like, "What the fuck were you about to call Sulu?"
He was gonna drop.
He was gonna say some shit.
100% a slur was coming.
Oh my goodness.
He was too drunk. He was too drunk to know better, I guess. But so Riley, the Irishman, goes off to sickbay, and it starts just like hitting on Nurse Chapel, and also I think probably infecting her.
Yeah, definitely. He I want to point out when we watched The Cage, I talked about the little the clipboard with the paper, and I thought that looked silly.
Yeah.
When what's his name goes to sick bay to skeeve on Nurse Chapel for a second, we see some just normal like spray bottles full of like cleaning solution.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I thought that was really silly. Like you would imagine like you use some like device or like hyper focused like light emission from a little
Sure,
controller
yeah.
thing
There's like a
to
laser
like
that's gonna clean this for us, or a
sterilize a
robot.
thing. But no, he's just got some fabuloso
Yeah.
in the med bay. That's really cool. Um, I will post a picture of it here so that also just because the picture that I took has Riley poking around a corner really funny.
Yeah, he's a real goofball. Another thing that I forgot to mention is when they first get back from the planet, and they're running their tests, Spock is laying on a table and just like kicking his feet on these little pedals that are up on the wall, and it looks really goofy. But this is somehow to test like that he's healthy. And as soon as he gets off the table, Bones is like, your numbers are really weird, and Spock's like, they're normal for a Vulcan. Stop being racist.
You're just trying to perpetuate the dirty lie that Bones isn't good at his job, and I'm not gonna stand for it.
Well, minimally he's racist to Vulcans.
Out of all the people on the ship in this episode, he's being best at his job because Sulu now is running around half naked, very sweaty with a rapier,
Yeah.
pretending he's one of the Three Musketeers.
He's running around acting like Errol Flynn.
Yeah.
Immediately after, he's running around with his shirt off with like, yeah, it's like a rapier or like a fencing foil or something.
It's it's a rapier, and I think he literally quotes the Three Musketeers.
Yeah.
Again, I alluded to this in a past episode. Him with this sword and his like little fencing on guard thing that he chases people around in the hallways here, has to be the entire reason that they gave Sulu a sword in the 2009 Abrams Trek.
Is this the only time he ever has a sword in the show or something?
I cannot remember him having a sword after this.
I guess we'll find out. But yeah, if this is the only time, that'd be really funny.
Yeah.
But so back on the bridge, it's now a complete skeleton crew because people have, I guess, continued to get sick and have been disappearing.
Oh, I had another thing that I wanted to say about Sulu in this episode.
Yeah.
Back when they were in the cafeteria and they were walking in to see a guy kill himself with a butter knife.
Right.
Sulu's like talking about his fencing stuff. He's like, it's called a rapier, and it's really cool. I'll teach you how to use it. And the Irishman is like, you've got too many hobbies. First it was plants, and now it's this. So they mentioned the freaky plant room.
So he does like the plants.
Or he did.
Do you think
he might have spaced all of those things?
Well, but the plant was just a hand in a sock. Do you think that he was fencing with the plant? Like he gave the plant a sword?
That could be his sparring partner. Yeah.
Honestly,
I would like that. If we saw that, I would love that.
Show me the fan fiction of Sulu.
I need some fan art of Sulu doing a little on guard with his little freaky plant hand.
And it's like the hand is coming out the top, but like the puppeteer's feet are sticking out the bottom.
He's just got big old feet.
But no, yeah. So it's a skeleton crew. It's basically just like Uhura and Spock, I think, on the bridge at this point. I think Kirk is there too. I think it's maybe just the three of them though. And Sulu comes running in, and he's got this big like plasticine smile smeared across his face, and he's like continuing to try and be one of the Musketeers. Ends up grabbing Uhura when she tries to like stop him, and Kirk and Spock have to fight him, and Spock gets him with the Vulcan death grip or whatever.
The neck pinch. I think it's the first one that we've seen.
It's definitely the first one we've seen, but they don't really like mention it much. Like Kirk is just like, you gotta teach me how to do that.
I think it's the first one in release order, not production order.
Oh, okay.
So there's probably an episode they filmed before this that will be coming out afterwards where they like explain it better. But yeah, it was a very quick one. Luckily, we know how Star Trek works, so I knew what it was.
Yeah, I'd heard about it. I don't know where from, but I remember somebody in something like trying, like some nerdy character trying one and it not working.
You're thinking of Spaceballs.
Was it Spaceballs? It could have been.
Yeah.
So the Irishman, Riley, has wandered off and hijacked the engine room. He basically told Scotty and his assistant or whatever, like, hey, they need you on the bridge, and just like locked the door when they left. And so now he's basically killed the engines so they can't stop themselves from falling into the planet. And he's also loudly singing a bad like Irish drinking song or something over the
Over
intercom
and
to everybody.
over and over again.
And if you thought the song that Ahura was singing was not good, this one is significantly worse and sung by somebody who's not a good singer, unlike Nichelle Nichols.
There's a point where Kirk says, like, please God, let it end. Like, he's so fed up with
Oh my
it.
god, yeah. And like because they continue to get like more and more upset, and there's at one point where like he's talking to Ahura and he's like, shut it off, and she's like, if I could shut it off I would. Sorry, Captain. She like snaps at him. Which is a cool little bit.
They both kind of snap at each other and then apologize to each other because everyone's infected.
Yeah. And we hear that the crew is continuing to get like infected off screen because they mention at one point they're like, oh yeah, people are just like kind of screwing around.
Everyone's running wild.
So the Enterprise then starts like shaking and it's throwing people around. Orbit or whatever is getting worse and worse, and so people are like stumbling and falling all over the bridge.
They're going real fast.
And Scotty's trying to cut through the like door to get into the engine room.
Yeah.
And Spock's like, hey man, you gotta hurry up because we're on a ticking clock right now and you're not going fast enough. And Scotty's like, I can't go faster without risking safety. And he's like, well, we're gonna crash if you don't, so you should probably just go faster.
Risk that safety, dude. Spock's going through the hallways and he stumbles upon just some loony writing vaguely racist graffiti on the walls.
Was that supposed? I don't even know.
I don't think so. He wrote "Love Mankind," right?
Yeah.
It's just the fact that our only Vulcan character was the one to stumble upon it, where I was like,
oh yeah, yeah, I see what you mean.
Like, maybe not. Maybe that dude was very pure heart intentioned, but who's to say?
Yeah, maybe he just got really drunk and he's like, I want everyone to just love each other, you know?
In the same hallway, Yeoman Rand is getting accosted again by another man. That's all that happens to this woman.
Yeah, and I don't remember if it's Kirk or Spock who catches it, but he's like, hey, get out of her way, and then he wanders off, and the guy like gets out of the way for a second, and as soon as he wanders off, the guy jumps back in front of Rand.
Yeah.
And she's like, Kirk, help.
She starts to go down the hallway because the guy's like all scared of Spock. He's like, yes sir, sorry sir. So she goes down the hallway to the elevator, but then as soon as Spock rounds the corner, he like scurries back in front of her, jumps in her way, and starts like serenading her again.
It's
and
the
I
same
just
song.
love
It's the same song that the Irish guy's singing.
the way she turns around and she just goes, Spock!
Spock, help!
Help!
Help! I hate this guy so
It's
much.
like I don't have time.
I'm so busy, and I gotta go talk to the nurse. He goes and he talks to Nurse Chapel, and now she's also infected and like vaguely horny. This is like the only character who's like kind of horny about it, because she goes up to Spock and she's like, I'm in love with you, actually.
Yeah.
So she like it really cuts through all pretense. There's no like, oh, is Uhura flirting with Spock? She's like, no, I am in love with you, like pretty flat out.
Yeah, there's no teasing about this really.
So now we know that going forward, I guess, because you know they say that this illness presents itself as just like it's like alcohol; it just makes people drunk, and so like she does really feel that way, I think.
Yeah, I believe that kind of. I don't want to spoil if anything ever comes of it or not.
Oh, they make out. Oh,
it's definitely one of those two. Either something happens or nothing does. But yeah, I think this is very true to her actual thoughts on Spock. And leaving Spock gets really emotional.
Yeah, he like
he's
locks himself in a conference room and starts crying.
Yeah, the first time we see Spock show like real emotion, not just like we should kill him, Captain, or or look at this big flower with a smile. No, this is like real, actual Spock emotions coming from his soul. And my fun fact that I have about this. So after the scene where Spock is weeping, Leonard Nimoy's fan mail increased exponentially. Viewers were enthralled with the idea that Spock was secretly a reservoir of love and passion instead of an empty emotional void.
Well, because I think also this episode we find out that Spock like is part human.
They say that outright. So yeah, Spock is half human in, I'm pretty sure, every iteration of Star Trek.
Yeah.
that we see. Like the
Because
Abrams
that's
one
that's one of the
also.
things
He
he's
has a
crying about is he's like, because I'm a Vulcan, I never like told my mom that I love her, and she needed that because she wasn't a Vulcan or something.
yeah. I if I remember correctly, I don't remember if it's in all of Star Trek or just like the movies. But his father, Sarek, is like the ambassador from Vulcan to humankind. So because of that, he married a human woman, and that's why Spock is
Mm,
half human. Although I will say, we have in future Star Trek, there are so many like alien crew members that are half human. In Voyager, like B'Elanna Torres, I think is half human. She's half Klingon, half human. And
oh,
if memory serves, I think Worf is also only half Klingon.
really? There was something that I think has already happened, but I just want to draw light to it. Is there's a bit where Kirk is like trying to leave the bridge, and the door just like doesn't open, and I don't know if it was a bit or like if it was supposed to be like, oh, we can't, like the I don't know, the door guy isn't here to open the door or something. But he like starts to leave, and he turns around, and he looks really frustrated at Uhura for a second, and the door opens, and he's like, and he just walks out.
That's really good.
It's one of two actually really funny door scenes or door bits, I guess, in this season or this episode, because when Riley's walking around earlier before he's locked himself in the engine room, he also like comes up to a door and he like blows it open. He's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I was laughing when he was just kind of going around. He was like waving at doors to get them to open, and he blows at one.
yeah. He was having a
Kind
good
of
time, honestly. I
yeah.
respect
It
it.
was all fun and games until he almost killed us all.
Yeah, and so Riley's also he's in the engine room and he's like making demands over the loudspeaker, and he's like, he says something about food. I don't remember what exactly, but he's like, we're always going to have really good food or something. And then he starts making demands of the women. He's like, women, you should wear less makeup. You don't need to do it. I don't know why you bother. You don't need to do it. You're all beautiful. And he's like, and you
Yeah,
should wear your hair loose and like around your shoulders.
loose
That
about your
one's for me.
shoulders.
It's just really funny.
Yeah,
But so he, at this point, Kirk has left the bridge and is going down to engineering to beat the hell out of Riley. Scotty's finally cut through the thing to get into the bulkhead or whatever, and they set their phasers to stun, go in, don't really shoot him, they just grab him, and they're like, get the hell out of here, I hate you so much. And they're
yeah.
like, okay, we can finally get out of here. And they're like, oh wait, no, the engines are off and we don't have time to turn them on and get them up to speed before we crash, so we need another solution.
This okay. Space disease or no, Riley is so fired
100%, dude, he's
because
gone.
like imagine using being drunk or let's even say drugged against your will, because that's really more what it's like.
Yeah.
But then like you're like, I'm sorry, I was against my will. It's like, okay, Nurse Chapel didn't shut down the engines. He flirted with the Vulcan, dude. All right, like like Sulu's on suspension for chasing dudes with a sword.
For sure.
You almost killed us all.
Yeah. Yeah. If we don't see him again, he's got put out an airlock.
He gets spaced. He's done.
It's either at this point or slightly before that Bones finds a cure for this thing, which I'm assuming he plagiarized from somebody else.
Come on, man. He
And
he does one part of his job correctly, and you can't even give him credit.
nah, but he does. He uses it to cure Sulu. So Sulu's like, "Oh my, I'm not a drunk anymore."
Yeah,
They're
he
like,
cures
"Get back to the
Sulu.
bridge. They need you to do literally anything because everyone else is gone."
He's curing everybody one by one, and there's a point where Kirk comes to the bridge, and Bones is there, and Bones grabs Kirk's shirt as he's just walking by, rips his slutty little shoulder out, and then jabs him with the cure. Hell yeah, it's
and
so
Kirk,
cool.
I think before that happens, Kirk has gone to the conference room where Spock is crying, and he's like, "Hey, we need to not die, and the engines are cold, and I don't know what to do about it." And they come to the idea that they can use an antimatter explosion basically in the engine to like implode the engine so that they can just shoot themselves away from the planet really fast and not die.
Yeah,
And they're like, this is super experimental. It probably won't work. Who knows? Whatever. So they try it. They go to the bridge and they're sitting around, and Spock is able to like find the formula, even though I'm pretty sure he's still drunk at the time, which is honestly pretty impressive.
part of his dealing with the disease is he's trying super hard to control it, and
Yeah.
so is Kirk, to be fair. But I think it's really cool the scene where Spock's walking through the hallway and everyone's kind of going mad loony, and Spock is like refusing to let himself break down until he locks himself in that conference room.
Yeah.
Like he's like, I won't let people see that.
Yeah, he's Spock's the best. I like Spock a lot.
Oh yeah.
So they all get to the bridge and do this explosion, and it works. They shoot away from the planet super fast. So fast, in fact, that they beat the speed record and start traveling backwards through time.
So
they go back 3 days.
This part is kind of funny to me. Like, I definitely sat forward a bit because the entire episode is this disease has put us in this bad situation. We need to cure it and get out of the situation.
Yeah.
But because of that, they bumblefuck their way into discovering time travel. Just at the end of the episode.
And don't do anything with it, right?
Yet.
Like, because this isn't a situation where, because my thought was like, okay, this is an episodic TV show for the most part, so like they're gonna do something with this immediately. I thought that it was gonna be like, oh, we went back in time and now that research base isn't dead, so we can rescue those people or something. But no, they just go, hey, we just invented time travel, and then credits.
Yeah, well, so that's the thing about it, right? Is they discover time travel, but we see and they note how dangerous it is.
Yeah.
And like not just dangerous like, oh, messing with time is a dangerous thing that we don't know the consequences. No, like physically the act of trying to accomplish it could blow us all up. So they're like, okay, so we accidentally discovered time travel. Write that down and we'll circle back to that maybe later. Which they do eventually. That's I don't remember if there's any episodes in which they do it. There might be, but definitely, famously, Star Trek IV, the movie, is all about going back in time. In fact, my last note for this episode was, we discovered time travel. I wonder if we'll ever go back in time to the 1980s San Francisco and get some whales.
I have heard about the whales thing. But yeah, so I really like this episode, actually.
Yeah, I did too.
I think this one's a lot of fun.
I think this one's my favorite of the 5 we watched so far.
I think I would agree with that, actually.
Which obviously means I'm going to give this one an engage.
Same.
A passing grade for sure.
Definitely engage with this episode. I had so much fun with. We get a good look at pretty much all the characters, right? Like Sulu gets some stuff, Uhura gets some stuff. We introduce Chapel. Even Rand is around a little bit. Like everyone gets something to do, even if Rand is basically just being annoyed in the hallway.
Yeah, and again, it's not just they get something to do. It's we see like their inner emotions coming out.
Yeah.
So we get a better sense of what all these people are about, even if Sulu's making a total ass of himself.
Yeah, Sulu's making an ass of himself. Spock's having an existential crisis and being a really good actor. Bones cures a disease, so he does good. This is really good. And Kirk even gets to start like really heavily overacting at one point because he's like, if there's even a 1 in a billion shot, then we have to take it.
He gets that shoulder out, and that's when it gets good.
I love that it's not that he like ripped his shirt in a fight. It's just that Bones was just like, here, buddy, let me help you out, and ripped his shoulder.
Yeah, as he was just walking by, like Kirk didn't stop.
Yeah,
just a very quick, just there you go. Got to rip the shoulder out.
There you go. I'll take care of you, buddy. But it's great. Yeah. Every character gets something to do. I love that this is an episode that doesn't involve like a super god doing psychic nonsense. Like this is an episode that's like very understandable of what's happening at all times.
I think every episode that doesn't have a super god is one that I'm going to like.
I think I'm probably with you on that one. I'm just waiting for the episode where somebody just gets on the Enterprise with a gun, and like that's the problem for the episode.
I can think of something somewhat similar to that. I don't remember which season it's in though, but we'll
just
we'll
like some
there.
Very minor issue. But if you want to see when it is that somebody gets on the Enterprise with a gun, you can follow us on Twitter at @RSR_pod. That's RSR_POD. You can follow me on Twitter at Daniel J. McG. That's Daniel J. MCG. You cannot find Skyler on the internet. He cannot be found.
You cannot find me.
He does not exist in the Jedi archives, and therefore does not exist.
Yeah.
If you're listening to the audio version of this and want to see a video version, you can find us on YouTube at Ready Set Replay. Or if you are the exact opposite, you can find us on hopefully all of your favorite podcast services. If we're not there, let us know so that we can get on them as soon as possible. And until the next episode, let's see what's out there.
See what's out there. Thanks for watching.
The game's just starting, the world's so bright. Jump right in, everything feels right. Let's play, take a trip back in time where pixels and memory